Teachings of Zarathustra for the modern world. The religion of Zarathustra, by one estimate, is approximately 3,800 years old. As old as it is, how can it apply to our life today? Before answering this question, we have to find out how a religion can bind itself to its birthplace and stall in time. One way is by presenting superstitious concepts that over time will be refuted by science, and at the same time, through demanding submission or blind faith, impose restriction on free thinking. The other is by setting a strict religious code as immutable divine laws descended from God, and within this context, enforcing hard rituals and dispensation of rigid commands and taboos that may interfere with the details of daily life, including diet, dress, and appearance. These religions over time will face challenges to their practice. For example, laws have to be amended or replaced according to the time, environment, and needs of society. Religious laws, however, are considered as the words of God and immutable, even if inapplicable to our time and needs. Consequently, for the followers, there will be a dilemma: what to do with those laws. Religion, like any science, has a definition: the dispensation of moral and spiritual concepts to teach individuals have to meet their spiritual needs and have to gain strength to pass through the hardship of life, which Zarathustra calls the fiery test. These moral values, meanwhile, by defining the purpose of living, help society to develop in peace and advance civilization. Within this peaceful society, humans can strive to gain access to knowledge and science. Religion, indeed, can limit itself by extending responsibilities beyond its definition and trying to solve geopolitical and economical problems, and even trying to delve into the realm of medicine. Obviously, each of these examples requires years of education and experience, and not only they are complicated, but they also undergo continuous changes that cannot be solved through religious texts. In contrast, Zarathustra's teachings are preserved through time and location. His teachings avoid these pitfalls that can render religion inapplicable to daily life as time progresses and humanity gains knowledge of the workings of the universe. By teaching aspirational ideals that at once avoid blind faith or superstition and refrain from delving into the specifics of daily life, Zarathustra has created a set of ideals that transcend time and location. Furthermore, by professing free thinking, his teachings are advanced in their harmony with not only development of knowledge and science, but ideals of social justice, foundation of democracy, and equality of all human beings who should work toward good and avoid evil. Zarathustra as a human being and real person. In the Gathas, Zarathustra does not place himself above humans. He reminds people who are suffering from injustice, bloodshed, and cruelty, I do not lead by physical strength or the force of army. The person who leads should be a good thinker and enjoy eloquence of speech. I fight the darkness of ignorance by the light of knowledge. Zarathustra does not claim divinity. Thus, he does not demand submission and blind faith. His teachings should be pondered by bright mind and after realizing the results of choice of good or evil, right or wrong, all men and women are left free to decide. Zarathustra announces, I have realized God in mind, and I have chosen the teachings of Ahura Mazda. I bring those teachings to you who are in search of knowledge to live according to moral values and receive happiness. He guides the audience to choose their path and does not force people to follow him because of his strong belief in liberty and out of great respect for human dignity. It is said that religion is dispensation of answers without questions. This definition, however, does not apply to the religion of Zarathustra, because even his monologues with Ahura Mazda are in the form of questions that indeed guide the audience to find their answers. Zarathustra is a real person who at times is despondent because does not receive attention and his mission is about to fail. He finds that it is very difficult to guide people because rulers and religious leaders are confronting him. Friends and co-workers have deserted, and even family members are avoiding him. But in solitude and profound despondency, he does not lose faith in God and entreats God's love. As much as he is the man of inner strength, fairness, and reason, he remains firm in his mission and declares, as long as I have strength and willpower, I stand for righteousness. Finally, after many years of endeavor and endurance, Zarathustra succeeds. This is the point at which he expresses joy, relief, and satisfaction that all his wishes have been fulfilled, and many people, including his opponents, have joined the new religion. The three principles of wisdom, knowledge, and freedom. In studying the Gathas, one realizes that as much as Zarathustra emphasizes wisdom and knowledge, his teachings are devoid of myth and superstition. Yasna 44, or the chapter of creation, is the best example. Here he finds order and harmony in all aspects of creation. This order is called Asha, the universal order. Zarathustra realizes that behind this harmony should be a great mind, which he calls divine wisdom, Vomana, or in simple terms, the mind of God. He calls the creator of this magnificent creation super intellect, who is the sole creator and sustainer of the universe. Zarathustra concludes that the wise Lord Ahura Mazda has masterminded and fashioned the universe in his great mind, Vahumana, created it by his creative mentality, Spentishta Mainu, and set it in motion according to the universal order Asha. The purpose of living is to promote the physical and spiritual aspects of the living world toward perfection. Those who participate in this mission by free will are called the friends and companions of God, or Vato. The concept of God. Zarathustra for the first time introduced the concept of one universal God, Ahura Mazda, the Lord of life and wisdom, or super intellect. God does not manifest in any physical form, whether human or object, but rather is to be realized in the mind. He does not belong to a tribe, race, or nation. He is universal and belongs to mankind. God is omniscient and omnipresent, hence does not have a house, location, or city. As much as universality of God illustrates unity of mankind, the name of God, Mazda, or the wise Lord, reflects Zarathustra's appreciation for wisdom. Ahura Mazda is an abstract entity that comprises the highest moral and spiritual values known as the divine attributes. Every man or woman, by attainment of those attributes as virtues, can become godlike and join God. Those attributes are Vuhumana, wisdom or good thinking, Ashavahishta, the best righteousness or truth and justice, Pashatravairya, spiritual strength, good rule or the chosen dominion, Spenta or mighty, spiritual relief or peace and love, Harvatat, wholeness or perfection, and Ameratat, immortality. Zarathustra, in introducing Ahura Mazda as the complete entity with sublime attributes, has one purpose: for humans to emulate God and become flawless like Him. A perfect human indeed is the mirror image of God. The divine attributes are the means of approaching God and at the same time the gifts of God to mankind. As God is absolutely good, He is to be loved and not feared. This is a mutual love because God also loves men and women for the conduct of good deed. The relationship between man and God is without mediation, a direct path with no ritual or blood sacrifices. The gifts to be dedicated to God are the fruits of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds carried out with love. In conclusion, the concept of God as presented by Zarathustra signifies man's unity, the image of perfect human, and teaches the purpose of living a life based on wisdom, love, and moral values. Good and evil and man's central role. As God is an absolutely good entity, the source of evil is sought within human society. Without human society, good and evil, truth and lies, justice and injustice are non-existent. The human's mind has two capacities known as the twin mentalities of good and evil. But God has granted two gifts of wisdom, or the ability to distinguish right from wrong, and freedom to choose. Those who choose the right path and live a constructive life will bring happiness to themselves and the world, and achieve the brightest mind. On the other hand, those who choose the wrong path and resort to anger will destroy the lives of mortals and receive the darkest mind. They cause grief to themselves and the living world. Zarathustra declares a new word for living a destructive life, that is, unlife, or the state of being alive but not living. Although good and evil are the two capacities and two products of human mind, nevertheless they are incompatible, and there shall be no compromise in this choice. Zarathustra in Yasna 45.2 reaffirms this notion and states, "Neither their thoughts, teachings, and intellects agree, nor choices, words, deeds, conscience, and soul accord. The means of correct decision and choice are the two divine gifts of wisdom and liberty." Zarathustra calls the sensitive moment of decision and destiny the great event of choice. As noted in the Gathas, man is born free of sin or sinless, but he has the capacity to commit evil. Sin is the result of wrong judgment, which results in wrong choice and bad deeds. Man is responsible for his choice and deeds. God is free of responsibility for the evil in the living world. Zarathustra teaches that those thoughts, words, and deeds that promote the living world toward perfection, such as generosity, devotion, hard work, and living a productive life with the love of fellow humans, as well as freedom, truth, and justice, which bring peace and happiness to the society, are good and to be chosen. On the other hand, lies, deceit, slander, anger, envy, revenge, greed, oppression, and injustice as the sources of division and violence are evil and menaces to human society and should be rejected. By the same token, indifference and inaction are to be avoided because they retard progress toward perfection and peace. Therefore, it is not sufficient to avoid falsehood, but rather there should be a ceaseless campaign for its defeat and elimination from the living world. The world is the scene of confrontation between the forces of good and evil. Man should be an active participant in the struggle against the forces of evil, and in this regard is considered as the friend and companion of God, or Vatu. As Zarathustra puts it, evil is to be delivered into the hands of righteousness so that wrong is corrected and the final goal of failure for the falsehood and victory for the truth is fulfilled. Here no physical force is involved, because as light always dissipates darkness, truth triumphs over falsehood and knowledge over ignorance. Zarathustra invites people to make the right choice and be among those who make the life fresh and make this world new. Accordingly, as every person by constructive action can be beneficial to society and change the world toward betterment and perfection, no future world savior has been forecasted. Social justice has a prominent place in the teachings of Zarathustra. Within this context, he introduces the concepts of heaven and hell in this world as the two states of mind. Heaven is equated with spiritual relief, and hell is indeed the inner torment. Both are discerned in the conscience. They have no geographic locations, and there are no depictions of their imaginary pictures. One can make the world a living hell or true heaven. Zarathustra presents a law of life based on happiness and pain. Long suffering is for the wrongful and everlasting happiness for the righteous. This law reflects justice based on the results of actions, law of Ashar. In Yasna 33:1, the significant duty of the supreme judge has been defined. It states, according to the primal laws of life, the just leader shall, with his actions, do full justice to the wrongful and to the righteous, as well as to the person whose falsity is combined with his probity. Those who see the price of wrong choice can always return and have a new direction and productive life. Thus, although no repentance has been forecasted, yet a path is laid for a fresh start and new productive life. Teachings of Zarathustra and today's world. Liberty is the central core of the teachings of Zarathustra. It is considered as a divine bounty, an individual right that neither is to be given up nor to be taken away. Therefore, it should be used judiciously and in a correct manner to produce constructive results. Some religions and philosophies are based on fatalism and teach that the destiny and fate of humans are predetermined by God before being born. Whatever God wills happens. It seems obvious that fatalism will produce sluggish and inactive societies that constantly long for a supernatural power to come to their rescue. Zarathustra reminds that God not only has created the physical frame, but has granted life, intellect, wisdom, conscience, willpower, and liberty to think, decide, make choices, and act at will. Within the context of freedom of choice, he enunciates freedom of religion, conscience, and expression. Man is born free and by choice of action is in charge of his destiny and fate. He has been granted freedom to choose leaders and ideal government that is called the chosen dominion. Even God is not imposed, because man, by conduct of good deeds, indeed chooses God. This represents the highest regard for man's dignity and consequently the teachings of Zarathustra, by emphasis on self-determination, free thinking, liberty, and human rights, leave no room for preordained fate, blind obedience, and slavery. Zarathustra's marital advice is still applicable today. When advising his own daughter on her choice of a husband, Zarathustra prays, "May the wise Lord grant you him who is wise and righteous." There is no mention of class, power, or wealth, and she is left free to decide, as Zarathustra puts it. Therefore, consult with your wisdom and decide in serenity. Similarly, in addressing a group of marrying couples, he recommends that they should surpass each other in love and righteousness, and should not be tempted by the allures of material life. They should avoid temptation and lies, because the joy that is linked with dishonor will bring grief and woe. These words illustrate that family unit, according to these teachings, is based on love, righteousness, and monogamy. Zarathustra addresses men and women as equals. In 2 verses of the Gathas, women are mentioned first. In other verses, men and women are praised for conduct of good deeds, and they equally receive salvation. For example, in Yasna 51:22, Zarathustra states, "Those persons, men and women, who act according to righteousness, the wise Lord recognizes them for their deeds and worship. Those who have been in the past and those who such are at present, I shall with reverence recall them by name." In the later Avesta, this verse has evolved as Yange Hatam, one of the holy prayers. The men and women whose deeds are in accordance with righteousness, the wise Lord recognizes best for their reverence, and in our part we venerate them. As noted, gender is not an issue in the Gathas. What stands above all is good deed. In fact, Zarathustra recognizes 2 groups of people, Ashavan, or follower of truth, and Dregvan, followers of lies. This recognition is not based on gender, class, race, or nationality, but rather in accordance with their characters. Zarathustra's vision of governance and future world. Without imposing any particular form of government that can be binding to time and location, Zarathustra first campaigns for removal of tyrants and corrupt religious leaders who have unified forces and exploited hard-working people through coercion. His goal is to replace the existing tyranny with what he calls the chosen dominion. This campaign, however, is peaceful because Zarathustra recommends that all should withhold anger and avoid violence. Even participation in this campaign is by free will because people choose this dominion. That is why he calls it the chosen dominion, Hashatra Va'irya, where all virtuous men and women reside and through good mind choose their leaders for the quality of righteousness. The goal is to establish justice, improve the life of oppressed, and enjoy peace. It is interesting that as we learned from the daily prayer Yata'ahu, Zarathustra envisions that Ahu, the worldly or state leader, and Ratu, the spiritual leader, are to be chosen as separated entities for their righteousness. In simpler words, Zarathustra foresaw the ideals of separation of state and religion and free election of leaders that constitute the foundation of modern democracy. Perhaps the reason for separation of two entities was that Zarathustra in his time had observed the harms caused by the unified forces of the local rulers, Kavis, and religious leaders, Karapans, as reflected in Yasna 46:11. In Yasna 32:15, he raises hope that the Kavis and Karapans shall ultimately be defeated by the oppressed, and the liberated shall enjoy freedom in the real paradise or abode of good thought and attain wholeness and immortality. Zarathustra's message in the Gathas ends with the following noble words, which echo hope for mankind's unity and world peace. He says, "The greatest is one who restrains violence. May bloodshed be prevented, may tribulation be vanished, may peace be brought upon earth. Mazda, the wise Lord, through his good dominion provides the righteous meek and honest oppressed a better life and strength. May the wise Lord lead us all again. May the brotherhood of man come down among us, so that conscience of every person earns the reward of righteousness, a wish regarded by the wise one." Conclusion. In conclusion, time will make certain laws, rituals, commands, and taboos unpractical. Just as legends, myths, and superstitions will be refuted by the power of science. They have no place in the teachings of Zarathustra, but concepts of liberty, love, human rights, self-determination, equality of man and woman, righteousness, justice and peace, service to fellow humans, and promotion of the living world toward perfection are not bound to time and location. These ideals constitute the essence of teachings of Zarathustra. He reminds all humans that as friends and companions of God, their fundamental responsibility and purpose of living are to advance the physical and spiritual aspects of the living world. Within this context, he introduces the important faculties and qualities of man, such as wisdom, intellect, conscience, soul, creative ability, willpower, liberty, and freedom of choice. Through these qualities, one can make correct decisions and participate in establishing the true heaven or the chosen dominion, where justice and peace prevail and the oppressed and meek rehabilitate. Finally, His three principles of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, and famous phrases of "let us make this life fresh and make this world new," failure for the falsehood and victory for the truth, and happiness unto the person who brings happiness to others, remain fresh and will shine forever.